Okay, let's see if this works now. Okay, looks like YouTube is now working. Let's verify. Yep, we're good. Okay. Yep, the classic turn it off and turn it back on. Never fails. Let's just make sure Twitch is back online. Which it is. Okay. I think we're good. Oh, you know what? I should probably go online. I think that's what I'm supposed to do. Okay. Let's wait another minute just to make sure everything's working. Okay, I think we're good. So let's get started. Let's recap what we were doing in the last stream last night. For those of you that didn't watch, it was a long one, over 2 hours I think in total. So what we're gonna do tonight, well, what we're trying to do this weekend is implement this this feature for Peapods, which is sort of like Doodle.com. It basically allows people to submit their availability for an event and allows the organizer to choose the best time that works for everyone. So this is sort of this is an idea I had as I was trying to schedule a bunch of like Zoom hangouts with friends. Like once you have more than 3 people, it just gets really difficult to find a time that works for everyone. So we're going to build something that makes that a lot easier. So let me show you what the user experience is that we're trying to go for here. Let's see if this will actually work. I don't know how dark it is in here. Okay. I think you should be able to see that. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so basically it's a grid that they'll show in the pod where you can see dates, times, and then people's avatars for their availability. And so you can sort to see like which date and time works for the most people. And you can click on an avatar to do a filter so you can see all of the times that work for that user. And you can just click on the day. You can just click on the day and it'll automatically select all the times for that day. And these are time ranges, if you can see from here. So it's like, Monday, 11 to 2 or like 4 to 5, I'm available. And basically users just have to click these buttons to tell the organizer when they're available. And the users can also click this button to add more time ranges to this grid. And yeah, that's basically it. So this is what we're trying to implement. So what we did yesterday, let's do a little recap. Now, hold on, let me share my screen. I won't make this mistake again. What we did yesterday is we started this pull request, event time range options. And these are sort of the commit messages that we're trying to target. So we refactored the pod type to store this new time range options array. And we implemented the create and did the tests for that. And we started the tests for update. But we ran into a bunch of like thoughts. I had to sleep on it because I had to decide how this feature is going to actually work in terms of the user experience. That's why I drew it out this morning to be extra clear. And I think I've come to a good conclusion. So, oh yeah, if people can't see my screen now, please say on chat, but you should be able to. So what we're trying to do here now is finish the tests. So basically update and join. And then we're going to have to add a start end time field to the pod type. So now that there's like multiple options for when the actual pod is happening, we need the owner, the creator of the pod has to explicitly say, this is the current start and end time. And then whenever they make a change to that, either the start, the end time, or the time range options, we need to notify all the members. And not just that, we need to actually update the member edges. Because say the creator has a time range of like Saturday 2 to 3, and when you join the pod, you say I'm available 2 to 3, but then for some reason the creator says, oh, actually I can't do 2 to 3, it has to be 5 to 6. Not only do we need to notify, but we need to say you're no longer a member of the pod because your original time range that you gave is no longer valid. And that notification is going to prompt the user to either A, say, okay, fine, I guess I can't make it, or B, accept the new time or suggest a new time, if that makes sense. So it's sort of like an Outlook calendar when someone sends you a meeting request and you can just accept it, or you can say suggest new time. And the reason this is important, I talked about in the previous video, but some of you might not have seen, is, whoa, what the heck just happened? We have this concept in Peapods of like this reputation, which is a core innovation of the platform, which just makes it different from all other social networks, where you can't just RSVP and just not show up and flake and there's no consequences, right? We all hate that as millennials. It's annoying. And it erodes trust, and it's really toxic, I think, actually. Just for people, there's like this culture of flakiness that I think is really bad and we need to grow out of as a generation. And the way to do that is you force people to put some skin in the game. And so you can't just join a pod. When you join, you have to spend reputation. And you get that reputation plus a little bit back when you actually show up. And if you don't, then you lose it. And so over time, it's going to become pretty clear who who's like the flaky one and who's not. And it sort of like gamifies it in such a way that incentivizes users to have good behavior. It's of course a trade-off, right? Because now you won't just have people like RSVPing for a bunch of stuff because there's that like, oh, you know, I don't want to lose my reputation. But that's, I think, the point. We want that. So it's going to probably decrease the amount of RSVPs to events, but it's going to increase the actual rate at which people show up to those events, which is what we're trying to do. Anyways, that's why this is important, because now that we're into this sort of like joining the actual pod where people's reputation is on the line, we need to implement this correctly to make sure we do it right. So with that context all set, and if we get through all of this in the next 2 hours, I'll be happy, because then tomorrow we can just focus on the UI component that I just showed you on my piece of paper. And I already found a pretty good open source tool for that called React Big Calendar. And I showed this the other day, but I'll show it really quickly one more time. So it allows you to like have a calendar view, sort of like Google Calendar, and you can just select a range. So this is how the pod creator will like put the ranges in, like on Doodle. And then you can also do custom rendering. So we can show exactly the grid I just showed you, and then we'll just render the avatars here, do some sorting, some filtering, etc. So that's what we're trying to do now that we have the context, and it doesn't look like there's any questions on the chat. Let's jump right into it. Get some music going. And I like to just talk out loud as I'm coding. Oh, you know what I want to do actually? I want to do a tweet. And I should paste my Twitch. It definitely is fun when there's more people watching, I noticed. Boom. Okay. So, where did we last leave off? And something I said last time, which I'll say again really quickly, is a pro tip for productivity is never stop your working session when you've like finished something. Always leave it at 80 or 90% done. It's really hard to do, but trust me, I was almost close to finishing this update, but I left it because now I know exactly what I have to do. I know exactly what the next step is. I'm gonna ride that momentum, finish update, and then just roll right into join. So it helps like the cold start problem when people don't know like where to start. Now I know exactly where to start. Okay, so what were we doing? Here we go. So we had this time range option. And it's basically just an array of objects with start and end. And we did some validation and sanitization logic on this before. So we create the pod with these time ranges, and we were testing updating. So we want to make sure that when we pass this new input to the update GraphQL mutation, which has this, then we want the time range options to be 1, and we want the start and end to be now and 2 days from now, which I think should just work. Let's see if we did this correctly. You know what? This might be useful because there's a bunch of new people on the stream to show what the heck we're even building, right? I showed this in the previous stream. I don't know if you watched it, but we're building basically a mashup of like Twitter, Instagram, and Meetup with some new features layered on top. It's like a social network for events, and we have the Discover page for the events, notifications, messages, user profiles, groups, very, very basic social networking features. It's a very slim and minimal experience. Yeah, anyways, we can do a more, you can just watch the previous video if you want a deeper demo. The first 30 minutes or so, I think. So, okay, let's kill the backend, because now we're doing tests. Let's run that. Let's actually make sure that the Jest tests are only running update pod, which it is, very good. I think this should just work, right? Let's actually look at update pod. So I like to have my test on the left here, so I do TDD, what I'm trying to do, and I have my implementation on the right. Where is it? So this should just work because we're using OrangaDB, which is a NoSQL engine. So because the schema is really here, the schema is in the business logic layer. It's not like we're using SQL or anything like that. So we're just shoving in some JSON right here when we update the vertex in the graph database, and the input is going to be it's going to be just coming in as the args input, which is right here. No, here. Yeah, okay, so the test passed. So it's doing exactly what we want it to do, which is good. So let's commit this. So let's come here, comment out the tests that we're already working. So there's some to do in here, which I noted here. We're gonna have to actually notify the pod members when we update the pod, but we're not gonna do that now. It's gonna leave it as a to do. See, let's do this. To do test pod member notifications. And then I learned this nice Vim thing where you can just do, what is it? So it's Shift V and then Shift G to go to the end of the file. Very nice. Let's commit that. Update pod. This was unnecessary. This is just an ESLint thing. Should update time ranges correctly. So that's the new test. See, every time you code your business logic, you have to actually test that you're doing what you think you're doing. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole point of TDD. Oh, I guess I accidentally committed this commented out part in the previous commit. That's no big deal. Let's go to, what should the commit be? Refactor, update pod mutation to 4 time range options field. I apologize for my typing. I'm using a MacBook keyboard now. I'm waiting for my Kinesis Freestyle to come in the mail. I had to leave it in San Francisco when I fled the city. Yeah, I'm in Boston now with my family for this whole thing to blow over. But I think it's going to be a while, to be honest. That's why I'm adding this new virtual events feature. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to update the join pod mutation. So, actually, you know what? Might as well just run the whole test while I'm getting things set up. It doesn't hurt. So now we're going to test up join pod. So now it's not enough just for a user to join a pod. Before it was like a binary thing, like you join or you don't join. Now we're going to join with, we're going to allow the user to pass the time range options that work for them. So we're giving power to the attendees, or giving, yeah, not power, but optionality. So we're also going to now, see, I spoke about this in the previous stream. We're waiting on this fix from the GraphQL.js library to do the validation and sanitization in the actual schema custom resolvers for the custom type. But for now, we have to just do it in the business logic layer, which is annoying, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Why is this create pod input is never used? Oh, that's interesting. I don't know why I didn't delete that last time. So we want to take this validate and sanitize input. Actually, it's the same as just update pod. So let's just copy it from there. Here. Validate and sanitize input. And then we're going to put that into join pod. And we're going to pull the ID from the input. This is coming from utils. Validate and sanitize input. Okay. So this is now going to have the time range options. So what we did previously in the previous stream is we have this pod. We have this pod type, right? And not only does the pod have the time range options that's set by the pod creator, but when you join a pod, you essentially create a member connection edge from your user to the pod. And on that edge, we have the time range options. And so we need to, when you join the pod, store those time range options on the edge. So if you're not familiar with graph databases, this might be a bit confusing, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually super intuitive, especially for certain applications like this, like social networking and recommendation engines and things like that. So here's where we're creating the edge. And see, you can actually, when you create the edge, pass props on the edge. So we're going to do that here. This is going to be time range options. And this is going to, actually, we can just destructure this right off the input. So where's input? La 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 la. That's here. So we're passing that into join pod. Passing the user. Wait a minute. Other pod members. The member state. Okay, so we just need to pass this through into the request. I should have called this join. The way I like to write code, or at least this kind of code, is like scrolling down in the file should reveal more and more implementation detail, but you should be able to get the gist of what this file is doing within the first 50 lines. So I like to have one function that's like no more than 20 lines, just like doing all the stuff. And then the implementation detail is revealed as you scroll down. It just makes more sense to me to do it that way. So this is going to now be, this is an array of time range options. Time range. And we can import the time range type from the GraphQL types, because the beautiful thing about using Flow is that you auto-generate the flow types from the GraphQL schema. So that's pretty slick. Okay, so now that we have time range options in the request, we should be able to just pass it through on the join, like so. And now that we made that change, we actually have to verify that change, right? So how do we verify that? We come out over into the join pod test. Get stream is not defined. Our update pod, see, this is why I ran that. I knew something was fishy from the previous commit. I think I made a mistake. So get stream is not defined in our update pod test. Oh, yeah, see what's going on here? I made a mistake. See, this is why I do this. I have this habit of double checking my work. So let's go back to history. Source tree is your best friend when it comes to this kind of stuff. So we just committed this. No, let's reset it. Then do a soft reset. Okay, so we keep our changes. And we need to comment these back in. Yeah, I thought that I was confused by that. Yeah, that's better. I don't think we have to run it again, but just to be extra sure. Why not? So let's go back and push that in here. That looks better. See, one thing I do kind of get annoyed is Oh, we got bags. We got bags in the stream. Yo, Baglio. I'm working on peapods.com. It's my latest side project. It's a event-based social network, sort of like Meetup, Twitter, and Instagram remixed. And yeah, I did a stream yesterday, 2 hours long. If you want to skim through that to get an idea, I gave a quick like demo of the current state. And right now we're just adding the we're adding a doodle.com like feature to the event where users can submit like their availability, and it's yeah. Anyways, it's for like doing virtual Zoom hangouts. Once you have more than 3 people, it gets hard to do scheduling over chat, so we're making it easier. We're sort of pivoting into virtual meetups because I don't think anyone's gonna be doing any real meetups in the next like 3 months, to be honest. As sad as that sounds. So yeah, refactor, update pod for time range options field. Yeah, that's a one piece of feedback I'd like to give the source tree. When you do a soft reset, you should keep the previous commit message. Anyways, so join pod now passes the time range options into the edge. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. So let's do this. Yeah, so now update's working, very good. This is why we do TDD. Now we're gonna test join. So we changed the implementation of join, but we didn't actually change the tests. But we did an additive thing, right? What am I doing? Join pod test. So the test should all still pass fine, but we still want to test that we actually like are doing what we think we're doing. So how should we test that? So when you join a pod, should succeed if user already joined. Should work with valid input. So before it's very simple, right? It's just like you just create an edge that you joined. But now we actually want to read the data off the edge. So the best way to do that, what's the best way to do that? Let me think. Let's look at our API, because to be honest, I haven't done a lot of the back-end code. This is written like a few months ago, so the full GraphQL schema is a bit hazy. So what I'm going to show you, and while that's starting up, we're using serverless offline. This is the database, OranguDB. It's pretty slick. So we have essentially vertex and edge collections. So you can, where is it? Pods are connected to users via the member edge. And so if I go to a member edge, you can see it has like a to and a from, and then you have this data you can put on it, this JSON data. So this is state member. This is an enum that could be like invited or member, I think, or something like that. Anyways. All right, so now that we have the backend running, I can do localhost 4000 GraphQL playground. No? Oh, it's running on HTTPS. Yeah, I like to run my stuff on HTTPS even locally, just because you want to match production as close as possible at all times. Yeah, testing. That's what it's all about. All right, so this is a beautiful thing, GraphQL Playground, because it shows you your entire schema. This is the business logic of the app. Everything else is implementation detail. I could re-implement this entire schema in Go or Java or whatever. It doesn't matter, and I can re-implement the whole client in Vue. But this is the business, right? And so what I want to see is how do I get all the pods? I think it's like get pods by get pods by event ID. They give me all the pods for this event, and then you paginate using a relay style connection cursor. And it returns to you a pod edge. And a pod edge has the actual pod data, which includes all the members of that pod, and it also has the time range options. So this is what I want. So I want to use this query in my test. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, after I join the pod, I'm going to say result equals GraphQL API get pods by event ID. Get pods by event ID, yeah. And I'll give it the input 6 and the user's context. I just like doing my tests like this. It's just easier to read for me. I don't know why. So what is the input again? What do we pass into this? We give it a get pods by event ID input, which is just the ID of the event and pagination. It's just ID? It should be event ID, I think. What is the event? It's just that, right? And then we have some default. We have some default. We don't need to run these tests. We already know they work. We have some default. Let me close this. Oh, before I close this, one more thing I'll show you. With the really freaking awesome thing about GraphQL is not only do you have Playground, but you have Voyager. So Playground is how I introspect the API during development and integration. Voyager is for like onboarding when someone's new to the API. This shows you all the nodes and vertices and how they're connected. So like you can like zoom in and see, here's a user, they have these fields. Oh, it's a geolocation. You click on it. It tells you the geolocation. It has a lat long, a formatted address, etc. You get the idea. It's freaking awesome. GraphQL is like, I cannot recommend it enough. What was I gonna do? I was testing, yeah. So basically, I want to make sure that the time range options exists on the edge. I forget how this is formatted, so I'm just going to log it and then write the test. So again, we're doing PR, what I call PR-driven development. I don't know if other people do this, but like I write in my to-do list the name of the pull requests I need to do, and then I try to estimate the name of the commit messages that will achieve that pull request. This helps me estimate the time it's going to take to implement a feature, and also stay on track and don't get like lost in the details. So we're finishing this, implementing the tests with this new data on the type. We're going to have to add these to the pod type and then do the notifications. Okay, so test passing. Result has a edges, and the edges has a node. Okay, so it's like this. Oh, I'm glad I did this because I just forgot it. I forgot something. Edges. So I expect the edges length to be 1. Another thing I highly recommend is only using 2b or equals in your tests. Don't use like assertion libraries or any of that stuff. It's just noise. So I expect there'll only be one edge, and I expect that edge to have a. It's gonna have a node, but it's also gonna have a time ranges. I cannot type on this keyboard, man. And then the time range options. You know what? I'm actually not passing them. And those time range options I can just take from the pod test, the update test, I think. So those are here. Huh? No, it's up here. Let's grab this one. Now and tomorrow. Yeah. And so we expect time range options. Oh shoot, I shouldn't have closed that. I can just use that same test. I can just reuse this. See? And then instead of pod, I can do result edges, time range options, and then that should work. Oh, but you know what's a good thing about the fact that I just printed this? I updated the schema in the implementation, but I didn't update the JavaScript API. So not only do I have this GraphQL schema, I have this API which allows me to use the API in JavaScript like this. It's very convenient for testing and other things. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do fragment pod props. No, I'm sorry. It's going to be pod get pods by event ID. So here we're returning the node, but we also want to return the time range options. And I can just copy that actually from all pod props like this, and then just paste it here. Well, we actually want to do this also to the get pods by user ID, and then get pod by ID. Nope, it's only when we're using the edges, so that should be good. Okay, so close that out, and now we should be able to run our test. Let's look at our commits. Oh, you know what? I didn't. Okay, I think this should be good. Well, that's running. Let's see. Oh, we got Taylor on the chat. What up, Taylor? Brendan's. Wow, we got some people. We got some people. This is awesome. People are actually watching. Let's see. How do I see how many people are streaming? I don't know how. It doesn't say a number. Well, whatever. I see people in the chat, so that's good. Aha, see? So now we have the time range options, but it's null. Look, it's null. Oh, see? You know why? I know why. Because we're not actually passing it through in our pagination logic. So let's do that. Let's go and do that. This is why testing is super, super, super important. In fact, I don't even know how you would do this without TDD. So in our pagination resolvers, we're implementing the like relay style connection pagination that Facebook recommends. It's pretty useful. It's like cursor based for like infinite scrolling. So we have this like get vertices by props, and we have get edges by props. And this is like a higher order function that allows, it's like a utility function that's used in a lot of the resolvers. So we actually want to time range options. Oh, wait a minute. Let me think for a second. I might be thinking about this wrong. It's on the edge. Where did I put it? Okay, so I put it on the pod's edge. Pod's edge has a... Yeah, and the pod's edge resolver is here. Members, event, audience, follow edge. Where is that happening? Time range options is null. Time range options is null. So you see here we have the resolvers for the pod. We have the mutations, the queries, and we have these members, event, thread ID, audience, pod edge. So pod edge is being resolved by this. Don't mind this logic. This is just a bunch of crap related to OranguDB pagination. So here's where actually we're slicing the page, right? But where are we returning the edges? So we have to get the page. We're generating the filters here. So here's where we're actually looking at the edges. So we're returning a node and a cursor. Ah, okay. This is interesting. So now this is we want to return extra data on the edge. That is not just the node and the cursor. You see what I'm saying? Actually, this is the first time we're doing this at the GraphQL layer. Time range options. We want to do something like this, but that's not going to work. It's not going to work. Why is that not going to work? You know, we're not actually testing the state. Oh. Yeah, this is the first time we're doing this in the schema. We don't actually have logic to handle this. So before, the state, like if you're invited or a member or whatever to the pod, is on the actual entity. But now we're storing the data on the edge, right? Because it's like a user connecting to the pod over an edge. And that connection, as you see here, members edge, is going to have a time range options, okay? And we want to be able to query that and return it in the edge time range options. So this is going to require actually a decent amount of refactoring. Let's think for a minute. Right? Because pod's edge now needs essentially a... Okay, I think I know what we can do. We can actually, in this get paginated documents, when we're returning the edges, we can we can actually just spread the entire edge into this, and it's going to get filtered and called out by the GraphQL schema. Let's verify that. So let's do let's verify that. So now instead of it being null, it should at least be the empty array. Like we should be able to put whatever we want in here. But you know what? I realized though the query that's actually getting these edges, I don't think it's getting the edge data. It's just returning the vertices. Sort, filter. Yeah. Yeah, we're not returning the edges. Create filter from example. Man, this is so ugly. We gotta refactor this later. Expected 0 received. Yeah, so now it's an array of length 0. So all we need to do now is in our pagination, forward the time range options through. Like what I want to do is this. Right, and edge data should come. I almost want to do it like just shove it on the node. That's the most efficient way in terms of like a database query. Like this sliced page, we're getting the page in this get page function, which is querying the database, getting the result, and then like putting the page in the total count. So this page is being generated in the query, and the query is generated here. So page, so for doc and filtered. Sort expression. So this filter is what's doing the... Oh man, okay, this is a significant refactor because we're only returning the vertices. We never actually have to return the edge data. You follow what? Did anyone follow what I'm saying? Get vertices, get edges. You see how we're using this? Let me just explain this for a minute to help, just to make myself understand as well. So like the members and the events, the things that the way you connect vertices. Well, this is a bad example because we're just grabbing all the edges. But what's a better example? Get event, search events. No, get event by props. So we just say like get vertices by props paginated. This is why this is such a useful thing, because this has nothing to do with a RangoDB. We can swap out a Rango for Mongo or some other database in the future if we want. It's all abstracted away from our GraphQL logic. So whenever you want to, we follow the clean architecture principle, which is like an onion. So whenever you want to make sure that your business logic is agnostic to the storage engine. This is why I could never use like Neo4j or Neptune or any other Gremlin-based API, because they only allow you to store single level properties on the nodes. Like you can't do user.location.lat. You have to just do user.location. And to me, that's a huge deal breaker, because what that means is that the storage engine technology is now dictating your schema. Like you can't create a geo-index on user.location.lat. So you have to then pull out the location from the user node. It's like, it's a huge, I don't understand why that's, anyways, I'm rat holing right now, but just trying to give you an understanding of how graph databases work, or how RangoDB is different. Okay. So we're gonna have to return here's where we're actually like here we're filtering it by the edges, right? Like I can filter by the edge, but I don't return the edge. I just return the dock. So this is the node. This is the vertex. So I almost want to put like put the edge properties on the dock. You see what I'm saying? Let's see what the best way of doing that is. So for each edge property, we generate a new filter. We join the parts down here. So we're dynamically generating filter statements based on the edge props passed in. So here, exactly. So I almost want to do this. Instead of dock, like I almost want to take the vertex, just merge it with this edge props. Probably should do this with this edge props field, which is basically just the edge itself, and then use that, because now we have the edges. See, edge props is optional though. This is such an ugly function. It works, but it's like I have to refactor this. So like if we are actually filtering on the edges, that means we're using get. This is so messed up. if we're doing get edges. See, we're passing edge props only when we're doing like get edges by props paginated. And so we only want to return the edge data when edge props is not null. And so so we want to do, otherwise this is getting messed up. So like, we want to just use record after this point. Record is going to be the document with or without the edge props. We need these edge props. So instead of this, it doesn't actually, we can just leave it as doc. I don't think this matters. It's just here where we want to return it. So record. You see what I'm saying? So we're going to take the edge props, attach them to the document so that we can use them in this function. Node.edge props. You see, because this node is going to be the actual vertex returned by this filter. And so now we actually have the edge data. I think that should work. Let's see. I'm forgetting something. Well, let's actually see if it's coming through. Anyways, hopefully people follow what the heck I'm trying to do here. We're basically trying to pass through the edges through our pagination resolver so that we can send it to the... So the question is, like, why do we even want to store the time ranges on this edge? Well, it's because that's the thing that's connecting the user to the pod. Like when someone joins a pod, they join via this edge, which also has the state. So it says like this user is a member of the pod, or this user is invited to this pod, or this user... And so this is the natural place to store it in terms of a... See, but we never were like returning this member from the edge itself before. Uh-oh. Collection not found while parsing. Oh, it didn't like my, it didn't like this. Edge. Da, 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 da. Okay. Oh, is merge not a thing? Oh, merge was a thing. Da, 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 da. Merge, merge, merge. No, merge is a thing. Doc array. Merge recursive. Merging will only be done for top level attributes. If you want to merge the sub attributes, no, that's fine. We only need top level. Merge works with a single array parameter too. This variant allows combining the attributes of multiple objects into an array into a single object. Oh. So is that what we want? That is what we want. wait a minute. Is edge actually defined? Oh yeah, edge is defined because it's defined by the here. Yeah, for dock edge in this is where we're doing the graph traversal. This should be yeah. Okay, now I remember. I'm just surprised I didn't have to do this before. I thought I was returning the member state. I thought I was doing this before. Like, it seems strange to me that I have to do this. Well, the test is running. Let's verify. I think when I was doing a get event by ID. Yeah, in the pod queries, get pod by ID. Follow edge. Get pod by event ID. Get full audience. Huh. Yeah, I thought I was doing this. Interesting. AQL collection review not found. Record. Oh. So it's not liking this. So this let record equal doc. I think I have to do this. I think I have to make it an expression. Let's actually just log the query. And we can just run it in here. Then we can just run it in the console. So like when I'm doing stuff like this with a RangoDB, it's faster just to come in here and go to like queries and just test it out in here. And you can, another cool thing you can do is you can actually look at the graph. See? They have a nice visualization tool built in. So none of these are actually connected. These are probably just all test nodes I forgot to delete. What is this? Green building. Oh, these are just tags, hashtags, yeah. So let's come in here, get the query, and start noodling on this. This is tricky. I kind of don't like doing this. But this is where it belongs if you don't want to duplicate the logic. Like, the reason we're doing this is because I want to, let me close this. I want to be able to just do this. I want to just be able to do this, right? So you just give me this field on the edge and let that just be in the JSON. Like, I don't have to think about it. So you have to do it in one place. And that place is where the pagination logic talks to a RangoDB. Here, okay. Here, record, let record. Oh, it's because I don't have a space. See, this is why we do this. It's a typo. Yeah, see, everywhere else I put a space. There's probably a better way of doing like query construction than just like this, what I'm doing here, but let's get it all working and tested, and then we can go ahead and refactor later. Red, green, refactor, you know. Put this here. Yeah, when the AQL gets like more complicated, I just do something like this. I'll just do like search events.aql. And I'll just put the AQL in its own file and then just string replace segments. And I'll use like the bind variables with a RangoDB because that's the safer way of doing it to avoid like SQL injection style attacks. Okay, what's going on chat? I should just put the chat here. Hope everyone's having a nice night. Everyone's staying safe, just hanging out. All right. Test still failed. Collection review not found record. Oh, I guess it wasn't a typo. Let's debug this query. Let's go into RangoDB. Okay. We don't need to filter on the edge attribute right now, so let's just do this. Let's take out that filter. Let's simplify it. So let record. Oh, I already see what the problem is. I injected this record too early. This should be like down here. See? Ascending, user ID, let's just give it a user. Execute. Syntax error. Is same collection. Oh. Okay, we got nothing. We got nothing. Well, that's good because it's not failing. Wait. Has access. Let's remove this access authorization logic. Oh, is there somewhere else where I was using it? Yeah, here. Oh, shoot, still nothing. This should be returning the document, right? Like if I just do this. Huh? Oh, doughy. That's because we're doing this. Let's actually do this for real. Let's actually find a, let's find an actual group. Let's use real data. Okay. There's no members of this group? Are you serious? What are this users? What are the groups that this user is a part of? Who is this, by the way? Oh, is it me? So let's go into the graph. Let's actually start from me. That's me. Okay. And here are my connections. Where are my groups? What's this blue one? This is an event. That's not what I want. I wish this is a... Oh, what am I saying? I can see it down here, right? If I click on it? Yeah. So this is a hashtag. It's a pod. This is a group. So group ID 1223. 1223. Wait a minute. So this should be... Let's get rid of the pagination logic. I'm just trying to like get that edge, you know? That's all I want, is that edge. So let's return filtered. For doc and filtered, sort by created. Return Mac. Yeah, no, this should work actually. Huh? Right? Shouldn't this work? Why is this 0? Page is an empty array. Let's get rid of the sort and limit. Huh? What's going on? What the hell? Did I not just verify this is either that I'm a member of that group? Right? Isn't this me? Oh, what the heck? It doesn't persist. This is 1223. Group 1223. What's this edge? Oh, I can't click the edge. Oh, I can. Okay. ID and created. Oh, it's a created. I'm not a member of this group. I just created it. That's why. Oh, I'm not a member of any groups? Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay. I didn't join any groups. This is just test data. That's why. Well, whatever. Let's just do created then. Doesn't matter right now. Okay, there I am. Boom. Well, I'm actually trying to test. What am I trying to test? I'm trying to test this logic. I want to make sure I can actually get my edge data. Let's get that edge data on edge props and then return record. So can I like view this as JSON? There we go. So here's my user. Okay, this is the node. I'm expecting to see underscore edge props on this record now. I don't see it. Why not? Oh, it didn't return anything. It returned 0. I was looking at the old data. So why is that? It's because I did this. Oh, it doesn't persist my selection, huh? Bummer. Aha! Edge props. Okay, so we have the created in the ID. This user created this group. Okay, so it's actually doing what I expect. So, okay, well, let's take a step back. Why is this failing again? What's going on here? It's a syntax error. Oh, no, it's not. Hold on, bear with me. Yo, Nop on the stream. What up, Nop? Hope you're having a good weekend. Dude, I tried buying a Switch and like everyone's price gouging the hell out of them. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Let's get rid of this filter. Let's get rid of the authorization logic. Has access return record. So what is going on now? Limit count is not a number. Oh, now it's working. Huh. Oh, what the heck? Collection or view not found record. Record equals merge. I think there's just a syntax error in my AQO. Yeah, I wonder if I can use the Switch Lite to play Smash. I haven't looked into it, but I think not. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on sale. Okay, let's actually look at this and see where the syntax error is. Let's clean this up a bit. So let's put this parentheses down here. Indent this. So indent this. So this is what we're looking. This is what we're looking at here. This is the pagination logic. So first we filter it. You don't need to filter by edge. I know that works. Oh, okay. This is, I already see it. So we're saying let record. We have an expression where we're assigning the new record, and we put that inside of our. We're supposed to do this. This is what we want it to look like. That's what we want it to look like. Okay. Where are we using edge? Let's do this. Let's go services. Let's grab a user. ID 1217. I should just remember that as my user ID. Okay, yeah, so that's the problem. I inserted it in the wrong place. So yeah, here we go. See, I'm adding a filter, so this should go down here. I knew it was something dumb like that. All right. Yo, Rocha, man, people are actually going to the stream. This is awesome. Hope you guys are having a good Saturday. Is it Saturday? What day is it, man? I honestly, okay, it's Saturday, good. Oof, that was almost embarrassing. All the days are just blending into one big thing. I don't know how it is for you guys. Alright, what are we doing here? We can get rid of these console logs pretty soon, I think. Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh, we got so rat holed on this. We're finishing the refactoring the tests just to catch everyone up who are on the stream now. We're implementing this time range options array on the pod so we can do this feature. We're doing like a doodle.com style feature for the event where people can like put in their time ranges that they're available, and the creator can just choose the one that works the best for everyone. This is just a convenience feature to help virtual Zoom hangouts be more efficient. Because I don't know about you guys, but like it's been kind of annoying to schedule stuff with friends when it's more than like 2 people. So all days are Mondays. Yeah, I know what you mean, Rocha. What are we doing here? Tests. All right. Oh, still have a failure. What's going on here? Collection of view not found edge. Oh, okay. So I know what's going on. Now look at we say let record equals merge doc edge. Well, we still want this let record to be in the. Oh wait, for doc in groups. Oh, okay. So why is this logic? If edge props, then do this, else do this. So edge props should be undefined. Oh my god. Edge props should be undefined when we're just doing get vertices by props. For doc and groups filter, so we're filtering on the vertexes. We're only returning groups. We're trying to create this record, which is a merging of the edge props with the document. But edge is not defined, obviously. Oh, okay. So it's not edge props that we should be looking for. It's create filter from example. Props query collection user ID. Get edges. Edge props. Oh, it's because edge props is yeah. I forgot. I gotta clean up this code, man. This code needs to be refactored. Yeah. Yeah. You see, this is already always gonna be default an object, which is truthy. So I can just do keys2.length. This is ugly as hell, but like I don't mind the fact this is like ugly because it's well tested and it's hidden from the like main application logic. It's essentially adapter code which connects our relay style cursor pagination to a RangoDB implementation detail. So that's just my way of like justifying ugly code. Anyways, this should work, I think. Let's see. Test will save me. Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense to me. Man, Docker is so slow on Mac. But I like the fact that my environment is the same as my production environment. I'm using like the AWS Lambda image, so I know everything I run in here. Oh, okay. Okay. Cannot read property length of null. Oh, it's null. It's null. So the node has ID created. Okay, so the node is not returning what I think it should return. The node I thought was going to return the edge props. Doesn't look like that's the case. Because this is an edge. So the queries at least are good now. They're not throwing. They're not throwing. Yeah. So I want the underscore edge props to be on the node. Let me right here. So when we're slicing the page, where are we slicing the page? Page. Interesting. Let's see. So here's where we're returning. Let's like run this query and see what the page is. This is getting the users. We don't need this filter. Page. Where's edge props? Oh, right. This is only gonna happen. Okay, so again, this is wrong. This is why we have tests. So it's not enough to check if there are. It's not enough to check if there are edge props that we're filtering, because even if there's no filters, we still want to get this edge. We actually have to test if we're being called by this function. Is there a way to do that implicitly? I don't want to pass an explicit like Boolean. It's not good code. So here we have props query collection user ID. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do that. Yeesh. Yeesh. Yeah. That's just what we're gonna have to do. Oh well, it's not the end of the world. So we're gonna pass in include edge props. And that's gonna be false by default. Include edge. Include edge data. Okay. This is optional. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, I forgot to actually pass it as a value. What I'm doing now, by the way, is not it's not good code. You don't want to pass like flags that change the behavior. It's just this whole thing needs to be refactored anyways in the future. So I will I'll let it slide for now. So we want that edge data. Let's see if we get it now. So the goal, once again, as the tests are running, I'll just get people up to speed, is we want to finish refactoring all the tests for create, update, and joining pods with these new fields that we added. We need to add a new start and end time field to pod type. And then we're going to implement the notification logics to all the pod members when the time range, the start or end times change on the pod. And we're going to then update the edges themselves. So this is kind of like semi-complex logic. But it's important. This is like the main value of this feature, is like keeping everyone up to date and like what is the best time to meet. This is like essentially this is automation, right? Because before you have to just have a chat thread. Now it's just like more like doodle.com, where everyone just puts in their availability, and then theoretically in the future we could just auto-generate the availability slots by like syncing your Google or Outlook calendars. But for now it's manual. Can't read property length of null. Okay, so it's still null, but we have the edge props now. Okay, which is good. That's what we want. We wanted edge props. So why are we spreading edge props on the node? Node.edgeprops. Yeah, okay. So this should be working as I... Where's the node for... yeah, so it has created... Are we not adding the time ranges on the edge? Let's verify we're doing that before we go down this rabbit hole. Maybe we're not adding the time range in the test itself. First of all, let's comment this out. This is unnecessary. So here, time range options on join pod. Okay. So we have the time range options on the node. We don't need the query anymore. Interesting. So node and cursor, where is this being? So when you're debugging stuff, you always want to ask yourself, what entitles me to the assumption that I should have the edge props on my GraphQL node? And so that's a good question, right? Maybe we didn't update the API. So let's go to pod, join pod, or it's actually hold on. Get pods by event ID. So this is actually an event. Get pods. Oh no, here. So time range options. No. We have it here on the edges. So the edge should be returning this, as well as the node. So we have node cursor, and this is gonna time range options should be added here. Edges. Okay, that makes sense to me. Time range options. Time range options. And we have it on the edge. Running out of battery. Keep it up. Who's running out of battery? Oh, I guess you are. Okay, so we're getting close. We have the edge props on the node. And we're spreading that through here. Oh, this is kind of a gotcha though, if I think about it, because what if in the edge props there is a property called node or cursor? So we should do this. Oops. That should never happen, but you know, just in case on the edge. Man, why isn't this doing what I want it to do? Huh. Well, let's actually look at join pod. Am I actually adding it to the edge? Where am I doing that? Time range options. Create edge. This is gonna seem dumb, but time ranges. When things get like really gnarly, you can actually live debug the test suite using Chrome DevTools. So you can start up Jest in debug mode and then connect to it on port 9229 and like step through. But most of the time, I can just figure it out with a couple console logs, just because I have a good understanding of how things are connected. But we have that like escape hatch if we need it, where we can just like step through and understand line by line what's going on. Yeah, this is strange though. I think I want to validate my assumption that this time ranges is actually being stored on the edge. So where would that be happening? Time ranges. Yeah, start and end. So here's the node. State is interested, edge props. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah, why is it not here? It's not here. So, you know, oh my gosh, maybe this create edge is not... That'd be a big bummer if this had a bug in it. So this is the adapter that abstracts away a Rango DB. We created a generic graph database class. So here's the interface. And then the implementation details are RangoDB specific, because that's the storage engine we're using today. Create edge takes in props, and then it just spreads those props and then saves the edge. So this is the edge that connects the pod to the parent event. And then this is the event. That's good. And then here is the, again, here's the groups. This is the user and the created connection. So we're looking for member. We're looking for user and member. Edge. Created. User and member. Oh, we don't have it. So I think the test is wrong. Get pods by event ID. Result. Yeah. Yeah, so this should say member. Oops. Yeah, so we're not actually returning the members of the pod. That's why. So this result, let's just comment all this out for now. This result doesn't actually have the, what do you call it, the pod members. We're doing good, Poleb. Still making progress. Slow and steady wins the race. Yeah, whenever I'm doing backend code, I'm like very careful. I make sure like I'm really thinking it through and going through every possible scenario, and like front end code is like willy-nilly. We can go quickly, and then because that's going to iterate fast based on user feedback and like UI requirements and CSS and stuff like that. But the backend code, you really want to be rigorous and test it out. Oh, what's up, Tanya? Tanya's on the stream. How's it going? Hope you're having a good Saturday. We're just doing some coding here. Let's see here. Okay, so let's look at the result now. Oops. Okay, so edges. Time ranges is still null. And so we're looking for the members edge on the pod. Yeah, it's not being returned. So this get pods by event ID is actually not doing what we want it to do. So let's take a look at that implementation. It just gets the event vertex and then calls get edges by props paginated. And it's using the yeah, so it's giving you all the pods that are connected to this event, and then the pods implementation. Oh, sorry, Ted. I was calling you by your username. Where we go? Oh, so let's go to the implementation here of pod. So when we're actually returning the members, we're using this follow edge, connecting the users, member to users from this pod, inbound. Yeah, this is right. And the edge filter is state member. So this returns all the member edges. Pod members. So what are we checking for? We're checking to see... Oh, doy. So this is returning the pod. Not the pod... So edges sub 0 is a pod. It's not actually a pod edge. Okay, so that explains. So everything was working, I was just testing it wrong. That's annoying, but that's, I guess, better than there being a bug. So what we want to do is, let's take a look at our type here. So we want to get this pod's edge, which has our time range option. And pod's edge is returned by, let's just do a search for it. Pod's edge is returned. Yep, pods by event ID. Wait a minute. Pod's edge. Oh, so I was doing it. Pod's edge. Get. So this should return the pods edges. Huh. Shoot. Get pod's edge by event ID. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out like what exactly I'm trying to test here. So we joined the pod. Oh, this is not actually what we want to do. We want to get the members, get pod by ID. You see what I'm saying? We want to get the I'm thinking about this all wrong. That's why. We want this time range option not to be on the pod. Where is it? Here. So we put this on the pod. We want this to be on the members. We want to be on the member edge. Members edge. Yeah, this is tricky. I have to rethink this data model. Let me draw it out real quick on paper. Where's my pen? Some ASMR there. Okay, so we have the event. I'm just drawing this on my paper right now. Connection. Okay. And then we have user. This is member edge. And the member edge has a state and a time range. Okay. Okay, yeah, so this, we don't want this on the pod edge. This is the wrong place for this. We want this on the pod members edge. Pod members, where are we getting pod members? I was just showing that in Pod.js. Pod.js. So members is just doing a follow edge. See, this is why. Does follow? I think follow edge will allow us to return the edge data. Right? Let's make sure of that. This actually simplifies things if this is the case. So we want to. So it's on the member edges that the time range options should exist. Okay. And so follow edge, I believe, will let us return that data. If not, we should just add it. Follow edge. Yeah, right now it's just returning the vertices, not the it's not returning the edge data. Okay, so how should we best expose that to the UI? So here we just have an array of users, right? These are the members. So I think this is some tech debt I should pay anyways. Because like, what if there's, 1,000 users in this pod? There shouldn't be, but what if there are? This is going to be very inefficient. We should paginate over the members. And in that pagination, we can reuse the logic that I just implemented, which is actually returning the edge data. Does that make sense? Yeah, this was sort of a simplification that was just easy for me to get going, but I think we should actually paginate over the members. That would require some front end changes as well, but I think that's okay. Let me just think for a minute. What are the implications of paginating over the members? Because if you look at the group type, group.graphql, oh no, I'm sorry, group types, we have like a members connection. I could just straight up copy this because this is doing the pagination over the members edge, and then we could still use thing that we just wrote. I am undecided on what the best way to proceed is. Are we still sure that we want to put the time range options on the members edge? Right? Like, where else could we put it? No, it should be, I'm pretty convinced on that. It should be on the members edge. Okay, well, it's a pretty significant refactor then, but that's fine. I think we should have done it in the beginning anyways. Well, there's two options we can do. We can either just copy this members connection and reuse that logic, which would be very easy, or we could just no, I think that's the way to do it. There's a hackier way, which is just like getting the edge data and like and shoving it into the user. No. Let's do it this way. This is the proper way. All right. It's just gonna make the front end a bit more complex, but that's fine. Whatever. We've already done it. So. Oh, actually, let me think. Now that we're doing this, should I just add start time and end time here? Why not? Make it one. Let's put it down with time range options. Members connection takes a pod members connection input and returns a pod members connection. Doing some pagination now. And then we're gonna have start time and end time. So for those of you that aren't familiar with GraphQL, you now also have to change the input types. So that's gonna be down here probably. Yeah. Okay. That should be fine. Okay, so now we need to copy over these connection types. The connection, members connection input and members connection. But we can just copy that from group, it's the same thing. Yeah, right here. So this is the relay style cursor pagination, which is very nice for graphs. And then we can just replace group pod. Okay, and then this is now a pod's edge, and so we can still leave the no, this is still this is a user's edge. What am I doing? Okay, and we can I don't know if I want to reuse user's edge here. Maybe I should do pod member edge. Okay, and then pod member edge, because otherwise it's pod member edge has well, let's look at user's edge. Can I do this? Can I shift click? No, I don't have that extension in. That's all right. I'll go to users. You guys get an idea now of the schema. It's pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward schema. Users edge implements edge. So we're gonna do this same thing, right? But we're gonna have a time range options. Pod member edge. It's basically a user's edge that has a time range options. Yeah. This is better. So let's save that. And we're gonna have to refactor a bunch of stuff now, actually. We're not using pod's edge. Oh, no, we still are, it's fine. Yeah, see, the pod actually has a time range option set by the creator, but this is actually redundant, isn't it? Because this is also going to exist on the member edge of the creator. Okay, so this is redundant. Maybe we should leave it though. It might be an efficiency thing, because now we got to implement another query, which basically says get all time ranges users pods connection. So this returns all the pods, but like when we're scrolling on the UI, so let me just you love queries. Yeah, I love queries too. When we're scrolling in the UI, like the way we want to do this is when you select the event and you see all the pods. Oh, I don't think it's running. Ah, I want to show something. Let me show you something. Oh, shoot! I messed up the. Ay. Let's just add. What's it complaining about? Time range options on type pods edge cannot query time range options. I think I fixed that. What I want to show you is like, whenever I get a little bit confused about the schema, I like to go back to the UI. What music is playing? Oh, just some chill step. Whenever I get a bit confused about how we should implement the data model, I like to go back to the use cases of the UI and see what makes the most sense. You don't always want to let the UI dictate the data model, but you want to let it influence it. So I definitely think we should keep it on the pod member edge like this. However, in fact, we should probably put the state here too. Because this is going to be influenced by time range options. Like when the time range options are changing, the state is going to change as well. what I was saying is you don't want the front end to dictate the API, but you want it to influence it. So the way I see this working is like as you're scrolling through and looking at all the pods for each event, you want to see all the time ranges and just be able to click on them really quickly. You don't want to have to like load a second level query. Pod.members is defined but not in schema. Oh. Let's just comment this out for now, so I can show you what I'm talking about first. I think this should hot reload if Docker is going to behave whenever you change the .graphql files. Yoo-hoo! Or whenever you change any file for that matter on the back end. So again, whenever you are changing the schema, you want to think about the front end. Like, what are we trying to ship in terms of feature? So when you're on viewing the event, you can like view the pods page. This is work in progress anyways. I have to change this, but basically this is showing you like all the pods for this event. So the size limit, the dating option, if it's like strictly platonic. So right now, this is what's changing, right? The state of the pod is attending. Like once there's more than one person, like, okay, we're going to this event. But now this is variable because it's going to be based on this like the time range options. And so I want to actually show that table I showed you guys earlier in this card as you're scrolling, so that to join this pod, see I can leave the pod, but if I was another user, it would say join pod. This will be grayed out until you select one of the time range options, and then you can join pod. And then it's going to have a pop-up saying, are you sure you want to spend 200 reputation to join the pod? You say yes, and you're in. Okay? And that table, for those of you that are new on the stream right now, is going to look like this. Where is it? It's like doodle.com, where you just have like a list of dates, times, and avatars on the right. And you can just click on either the date and select all the times for that date, or click on a specific time. And that will add that time range to your time range options field on the members edge that we just changed, right? So that's this is the feature we're trying to implement. So keeping that in mind, does it make sense to put the time range options for that user on the pod member edge? Yes, I think it does. Because this data, we're going to have like an array of these time range options per user, and we're going to aggregate that data to display in the table on each pod card. So it's a pretty expensive query, but it should be okay because we're querying on that edge anyways. When you get a chance, can you talk about what database you're using and a quick reason why? Yeah, sure. Really quick, we're using ArengoDB. It's a a multi-model NoSQL engine. It's similar to, imagine just taking Neo4j, MongoDB, and Redis and just combining them to one storage engine. It's pretty freaking amazing. So you can use graphs, documents, key value pairs, and in one engine using one like SQL style query language called Arengo Query Language, AQL. The reason we're using it is because it's a perfect fit for this type of application, a social networking application, because using the graph database, you can do powerful real-time recommendations and social networking features using the graph database. So I was showing earlier, all the entities in the database are represented as vertices, and they're connected by edges. And you can show me all second-degree friends from this user, or third-degree friends, and it's a very easy query to do. If you were to use a standard SQL storage like Postgres or even MongoDB, you can't really do it in real time, because you either have to denormalize your data and store all the friends on each document, or you have to do like multi-level joins on each query, which is very expensive. So anyways, you always want to use the technology for the use case, and if you're building anything like social networking or recommendation, just use a graph database. So we are. That answers that question. All right, so back to the changes. This is a pretty significant schema change. So now numbers is not just an array of users. We're going to have to use this pagination logic. And the time ranges we can just remove from, I'm pretty sure we can just remove from the pod, because again, the the time ranges we display in that table I just showed you are going to come from the aggregation of all the pod members. Okay? So let's just do that. Okay. So this is now a much more complicated commit. I'm just weighing if I want to like break this up into multiple commits. Join pod. Yeah. Yeah, this is gonna be a big commit because we're refactoring a tremendous amount of No, you're not messing with the flow. That's fine. What was the... Yeah, okay, so now we're going to go in here and run our tests, but before we do that, we have to actually write the test to verify that these changes make sense. So let's go into... Close this. This is all still good, though. Stuff we did in here we're going to have to reuse, so it's good that we did that earlier. We need that edge data. So include edge data, very good. In fact, we should just commit that as a separate commit, but let's make sure it works first. So close this. So I don't think we should be testing on join pod. We should just test it on the actual pod create pod function. So this is working. Close this. Utils, close this. So yeah, now we're going to be doing the pagination logic in here, just like group members. So if you look at group.js, where is it? This one. Member edge connection. So we're going to do this. This is why you want to implement things in one place. So you can just reuse that logic wherever it's necessary. So here we're going to do get edges by props paginated. And that comes in from, I shouldn't have closed that, I need that still. Group.js. Get edges by props paginated. Okay. I'm going to paste that here. No. I like to do like the imports on the top and the types in the bottom. Personal preference. So we're going to come through here and just get rid of all this. Okay. And the user ID get edges by props paginated. Start vertex is from. Filter is edge filter. Is it edge filter? Edge filter. Edge props custom filter. It's edge props. Yeah, edge props. This is basically our way of filtering over the documents. And pagination comes in from the input. Okay. Oh, I'm missing a comma, I think. User ID, I don't think I need to pass that. What is user ID doing? Oh, that's if you're doing the authorization logic. but let me think about that. No, we don't. We shouldn't need that because let me think about that some more. Do we need auth here? I don't think we need authorization because if you're seeing the members and you have access to the pod, we're already doing authorization on the pod. Like you shouldn't be able to see a pod if you're not a member, or I'm sorry, if you're not in the audience for that pod. Okay, I think that is good. I think that's good. Okay. So this is our new change to our schema. We're going to go and update create pod test. So it should work with valid input. Let's just comment out all the other tests. And then just run create pod. So we're doing a pretty significant refactor, but luckily we have tests, so refactoring is not that hard. It still works, but it's you can feel pretty confident that you're not making a bunch of mistakes because you have a bunch of tests to catch your errors. Okay, so this is going to return. Remember we changed this earlier, so now this is going to return the edge data on the nodes, which is good because we're going to use that edge data here, time range options, and state. Okay. Join pod. We'll come back to join in a second. I got to make sure this refactor for the base type, it makes sense. Pod.members is defined but not in schema. Oh yeah, because we changed it from members to members connection. So, we're, shoot. Let's do this. Let's just search for members like that. Pod implements node. What is this? Oh, this is an auto-generated schema. We can ignore that for now. Where else do we have members? Group members, pod members. Here, thread has members. Yeah, we should see the same thing. I cut corners here, right? We should do the same thing for thread. Thread can have like thousands of people, but I'll just make it to do. To do use pagination here. Yeah, there's some tech debt we gotta pay, but we're just trying to get this freaking alpha out as possible. Oh, I know where. It's if I search for members, comma, it's in the pod here. So this is members connection, not members. This is where we actually link. We link the JavaScript to the .GraphQL files. If that makes sense. Yeah, updating backend code is a bit slower, and the iteration cycles are slower than front end, but it's way more important. Again, this is the business logic of the whole app, so it has to be fully tested, fully thought through, robust, and then the front end stuff can move a lot faster. We're gonna do that tomorrow. Hopefully, I'm gonna stay late and try to get at least this part finished. We're finishing this right now within 20 minutes, and then I don't know if I have the energy, I can do the notification. It's pretty easy, and so we can just tomorrow start fresh on the front end. This should be pretty easy and fun to implement this time range selector. I already have it sketched out. I have a good idea how it works. We have an open source thing we can use. Pod members connection must be an object, right? Yeah. Okay. What am I doing? So let's just look at the group. I'm sorry, let's look at the index here. So members connection types group. Huh? Pod.members connection must be an object or a function. Am I not exporting it from pod? Oh, I'm not exporting it. Boom, 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 boom. I kind of want an ESLint plugin that understands the mapping between the .graphql files and JavaScript, but we're not there yet. Okay, so this is no longer returning a promise, an array of users. This is returning a it's returning something different. I think it's cannot query for time ranges on pod. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Let me just finish this before I forget. I like to keep my graph flow types in sync. Let's just look at group again. Group members connection. So I can just pull in pod members connection. Right? Is that what we called it? Yeah. That's what we called it. Bum, 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 bum. I'm not using user. Yes. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna have to generate the backend flow types too in a minute, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Oh, direction is inbound. I forgot to change this. So vertex collection is users. The edge collected is member. Yeah, that's still true. From okay. Let me delete this code. Okay. It looks like we want time range options on type pod edge. Cannot query because the field on pod edge doesn't exist. That's right. That's right. That's right. Pod edge here, it doesn't exist. So we need to change our. We need to change the APIs. Pod member edge. So we got to change all of our APIs now. We changed the schema. So let's come in here. I'm sorry, we got to do it here. So it's no longer on the edge. Okay. So let's just revert that. It's actually, where is it? It's on the. I can just also copy this from the, it's on the members connection, but I can just copy members connection from group. So get group by ID, all group props. This is why we use fragments, right? Because I can just come in here and just pull this sucker. Members connection. Pagination. So instead of members, it's members connection. And members connection has all the public user props, and it also has our time range options. Oh, I deleted them. I didn't delete it from here though, so that's good. So let's come in here, paste that sucker. There we go. That's what we want. That's what we want. We also have to do this for. Let's see if I can do command 0 and then aha. There we go. No clicking around. Enter. No, I think it's command 0 and then L. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's the good stuff. Boom, members connection. I'm not like a super pro Vim user. I'm an intermediate, I would say. I don't have like that many macros. Okay. So we updated our API. So the front end. Oh, you know what? I think I need to import this fragment. I think I forgot to do that. Where's the yeah, you gotta import the public user props. The front end is a subset of all the stuff you're looking at here. We don't need all this data for all the features, but this is like all possible ways we can create the backend API. So all future features are supported by these APIs. Public user props, yeah. So I was complaining because I couldn't import that fragment. Gotta get those macros. Yeah, Vim is like a whole rabbit hole, man. I don't want to go down. Like, I use the 80-20 rule when I use VI. It's like, just get me off the mouse 80% of the time, and then I'll be happy. There's some purists, but I'm not one of them. I used to use Emacs too, so don't at me. Let's close that. We'll do that later. Members connection has the time range options. I think that makes sense. Public user props. Oh, shoot. It's because it's not local. It's in fragments. Wait. Event group hashtag pod. Public user props are in the fragments? Yeah. Very good. Control V is my favorite. Oh yeah. Control V is the best. Yeah, the one I like too is Control V, Control V, and then Shift G to the back of the file. And then you can do Shift bracket to jump into between lines. Yeah, Shift bracket, forward and backward. I mean, you really can learn a lot of Vim in just like a day. It just takes practice. Here we go. Can't query field time range options on the pod edge. I thought we got rid of all the I thought we got rid of all of them. Let's just search for it. So if we go here, no. Where is it? Yeah, that's where. Pod connection. Get out of here. Oh shoot, but I have to then paste. Yeah. This is a big refactor, like I said earlier, but it's an important one. It's very important. I mean, this is like a super. I was thinking about this. This is like a very valuable feature, like synchronizing schedules between people for events. Like, there's like companies built off this one feature, so it's worth it to invest, I think, in a decent amount of time into doing it. So, where else do I have time range options? All pod props. Yeah, we don't want this on the pod anymore. I see. I have to refactor all this. Yeah. Take members connection from here. I'm blowing your mind, Darmond. That's I'm not even like, dude. There's some people that are so crazy about Vim. It's like a video game to them. I'm like I said, I'm like intermediate. I'm not even like that deep into Vim. Okay, refactoring. Oh yeah, this is everywhere. I don't think there's a faster way to do it though. Just to go through a brute force and remove them all. Because it's like, this is on the edge. This is on the, here. Time range option. Members connection, that's the one we pasted. Okay. I think we got them all. Yeah, see, look at all these change files, my lord. Yeesh. Yeah, there's not really. Let's just do all the like schema changes, like all the .graphql files in one go. I like to try to keep relatively sane commit history, but when you're doing big refactors like this, can't really do anything about it. It's gonna be a big one. This can be a separate commit. This is just totally unrelated. Members connection. Yeah. No, it should be one commit. There's like a different schools of thought, right? Like, should the commits be should I be able to check out any commit in the repo history and everything works? Or, because like if I just commit all the GraphQL files, then like obviously it just breaks everything, but then I commit the resolvers that implement these, then, you know, so I'm of the school of thought you want your commits small, and so like people can like click through them and understand like your thought process and like how you implemented it. So like I'll probably commit all just the GraphQL files. Can't query members on pod. Oh yeah, that makes sense. So we have public users. Oh my god, there's so many freaking. See, now I'm even second guessing this pagination stuff, right? Like how big can a pod be? Even if there's like 100 people. What I wanted to do earlier, before I cut myself off, was do this, right? And just in the members resolver, just for each user, manually grab their time range options from the edge. But that's not as efficient and not as robust as just paginating. You see my conundrum here? It is a conundrum. There's like all computer science is just trade-offs. There's no right answer. It's just trade-offs on trade-offs. Like if we were to do this and just put the time range options on the user, merge them, then we would have to do 2 requests to the database. We'd have to get all the users, right? Like we were doing before. Where was that happening? Like we would have to follow the edge, grab all the users, and then do another query to get all the edge data. I mean, I guess we could refactor the follow edge. Humor me for a minute. I know we already invested like 20 minutes in this refactor, but like I'm really second guessing it now. Now that I understand the scope of it, like there's so many places where we're querying the pod members. That's kind of the whole point of the freaking app. So humor me. If I do db and where am I doing a follow edge? So follow edge could return the edge data. Because all follow edge is doing. Oh, yikes. There's a open pull request that refactors this whole file. Because now we're waiting to use the OrangoDB cluster in Oasis. So we can do distributed transactions. And I had to refactor all this. Because like you can't even use this like traversal function anymore. Like I do not want to refactor. I do not want to refactor this file right now. But what I was thinking is that I could refactor it to return the edge data. So instead of just returning the vertices, return the edge data on path.edge. And then, no, I definitely don't want to do that. Again, this file's already been heavily mutated in a outstanding PR that I can't merge because we're blocking an OrangoDB bug. That should be fixed next week. But so I guess what we could do is just get all the follow the edge, get all the members, and then for each member get the edge data. Oh my gosh, that's so inefficient. That's n squared. Because the front end, like say there's 100 pods for the event, then we'll have to query, get all the 100 pods, get like 10 members for each pod, so there's 1,000, and then do another, get all the edge data for those 1,000 members of all those pods. Versus the current approach that we're doing is just returning the edge data. Like we're already doing that query, that pagination query, to get all the members, of the pod, and we're just passing through some extra data that we're already doing. So it shouldn't be a big performance hit. What happened to the music? It's time for some ASMR. No, I'm just kidding. Chill step. This is more complicated than I thought. Should we keep paginating over the members? The question that's on my mind, which is like dictating this decision, is like, what is the average number of members per pod? The reason I did the short circuit earlier is no, I was just kidding with the ASMR, by the way. The reason I short circuited is because, like, what is it? It can be 10, 20 users per pod. Just like return the array, like don't paginate. But I don't know if that's true. Maybe there'll be like super pods where there's like 500 people in the pod. So we probably do want to paginate then, like as you're scrolling through the members. So the question I'm stuck on, I've been stuck on for 5 minutes, is like, should we continue with this pagination refactor on the members connection? We definitely want to. We definitely want to do it for threads eventually. Like that's just tech debt. Like there could be like 1,000 people in a thread. You could have like for every public group we create a thread. So you could have like San Francisco runners, and there's like 2,000 people in the group, and so there's 2,000 people in the thread. So we definitely have to paginate on the thread, but the pod, I don't know. Maybe we can do. I'm stumped on this. Let me just do some more thinking. I'm sorry if this is boring for you guys. This is like what it actually is to implement backend logic. You have to really think through all the use cases and the trade-offs, because there's always trade-offs, and you have to think, how does it work at scale? How does it work at low scale? So if we don't paginate, then we have to just append the time range options to the user. And how would we get those time range options? We would have to use the get edge, follow edge exists, get edges. So we would have to use get edges for each member, and then we return the edges, and then that has the time range options. That's very expensive. It's n squared. I'm sorry, no it's not, it's 2n. What am I thinking? So instead of, like, if there's 1,000 members, instead of just querying 1,000 times the database, we could query 2,000. It's not n squared. I'm tired. Let's see. I'm actually like leaning towards that right now. I know I invested some time in this refactor. I'm leaning towards just returning the time, not just because of, like I said, the complexity of the refactor. I mean, that's not, I'm never trying to optimize for developer time. Like, we're gonna have to do work no matter what. If it's a lot of work or a medium amount of work, whatever, but the front end is gonna be significantly impacted, because you also have to think not about, whenever you change an API, you have to think about all the breaking changes to the client. And so right now, if I were to implement pagination on the pod members, I would have to refactor a bunch of front-end components, which is fine. But if I just added this new time range options field, it's just an additive breaking. It's not a breaking change, it's just an additive. And so the front end is pretty trivial to just add in that new thing. Dag nabbit. Yep, I'm convinced. We should not paginate on the pod members. I might regret this, but time will tell. I think there's gonna be max like 100 members per pod. Like that's the whole. Yeesh. Oh my gosh. I'm so torn on this decision. Okay, it's still a pretty big refactor though, even if we don't do pagination, because I still have to add time range options to all the members, right? And now pod members doesn't return a user, actually. It returns a user. Yeah, originally the idea for ppods was a pod would be max of size 3. But based on the user research, when I was doing alpha testing with my early users, that became quickly not a good idea. They basically said you should default to 3. You can have a default, but you should be able to make your pod size as large as you want, because it was just an unnecessary restriction. So pod sizes you can do. Actually, no, I think the limit is 20 right now on the UI, but I mean, it's not 3. So that has changed based on user feedback. All right, let me think. We're backtracking out of this refactor. We're backtracking. Want to know why? Because I think there's something in psychology called the sunk cost fallacy, where it's like, oh man, but I already did all this work to include the edge data. I definitely am aware of that, and I try never to let it affect me. I always try to make the most rational decision. So even though we went down this whole road of returning the data in the edge, I think the simplest change would just be, let me show you something. This is gonna drive people crazy. People are too weak to kick boring people out of their pods. No, it was just for super extroverted people that go to parties and stuff. They want to go with 10 people, they roll deep, and so you just have to accommodate those people as well. This is what I'm gonna do. People aren't gonna like this. I'm gonna take all the stuff that's definitely still valid. Yeah, people aren't gonna like this. But oh well. So this is all the stuff we did basically up until 30 minutes ago. We just went down this fork in the road. We are going to revert all this. Okay? Okay, so we're gonna do this. Ah, man. I should probably stash it first, maybe? In case... No, I should just commit. Just revert this. What we're gonna do, before I revert it, let me explain, unless I hear some resounding cries from the peanut gallery. We're gonna come in the pod type, and we had it, we're gonna do this. I'm just trying to be as simple as possible. We're gonna do this. Like that. This is what I want to do. This has the minimal amount of changes to the front end. If we just shove this new time range options field on the members array, something I wish you could do in GraphQL, I don't think you can do, is inherit from a type. Like, I don't think you can do this. That's if you're using like, what's it called? Like Apollo Federation or something. You could do like polymorphism and stuff, but you can't do that. So, unfortunately, you're gonna have to do this. So it's just it's still a pretty significant refactor then, actually, right? Because we're gonna have to go through all these places, and instead of doing members connection, we're gonna have to do members user, and then time range options. Time range options. What I definitely don't want to do is like copy all the user props in here. Here's a crazy idea. Why don't we invert the problem? Why don't we do this? Here's a crazy idea. Why don't we invert it? What if we do this? What if we do this? Hold on, bear with me. Am I crazy? What if we have a time range options on the pod, and then the way we resolve this is we get all the members. So we resolve it the same way that we described earlier. We just, now it's purely additive. So there's very minimal changes to the front end. We just have this new thing. And this will be easier to consume on the pod card component. You guys with me? Am I crazy? Does this make more sense? I think this is what we're gonna do. I think we're gonna do it. Why was this not required? A pod can have no members? Is that valid? That shouldn't be valid. A pod should always have a member. Whatever. Some business logic stuff we can check out later. Yeah, I think this is what we're gonna do. This will make it easier to implement tomorrow on the front end. So forget all this crap that I was talking about. Okay. This is the schema that simplifies things. This is what I was trying to do, okay? So why do we even need this? We don't. Pod time range has a time range and a user. Oh shit. Shit. Now there's gonna be like we want a key by the user, not the time range. Ay 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 ay. You see what I'm saying? This is so inefficient. There's gonna be like 50 versions of the same user in this response. I want to return an array where the key is the user ID and then the value is a list of time ranges. It's like time range options by user. Well, I guess if we're already querying the members of the pod, then we can just pass in the user ID. And then we can, because like, we're not doing a partial response. Like, we're either going to get the pod data or not. Yeah, I think this is fine. The only thing is, like, if someone else uses this API and they query for time range options, but they don't query for the members for whatever reason, then it's not going to be useful. They can't, I mean, they just have user IDs. They don't have data. That's fine. That's fine. It's a trade-off. I like this trade-off. All right, we're good. Yikes, my gosh. That was such a difficult, unnecessary decision. Okay, so what are we doing? We're reverting this. What's in here? So members, time range options. No, this is now here. Time range options is now on the pod. Man, I can feel my brain. I should have taken a break. The problem with live streaming, I noticed, is I normally like take breaks, like Pomodoro technique, like every 30 or 40 minutes. I just like get up and stretch or drink tea, but I feel like obligated to just sit still and code and talk. I think that's wrong. I think I should get out of that mindset. So maybe I'll do that. Are even people even still watching? I haven't even like checked in on the stream. I'm the worst streamer ever. Oh wow, yeah, actually I have some people watching on Twitch. Okay, we'll keep going. Yeah, we get to a good stopping point and then take like a 2-minute stretch, but like I think I understand now what we're gonna do. This is the proper way to achieve this feature, based on the drawing I did on the piece of paper I showed earlier. So let's refactor. Let's come here. I want to get scatterbrained. This is all still good. This is what we want. This is what we want. Boom. And then this is being reverted. Caught myself from going down the deep rabbit hole with this pagination stuff. That would have been like not only a significant refactor to the not only a significant refactor to the backend, but the front end components as well. Get pods by user ID. All right, once we commit this, I'm gonna take a break. But we're going. We're just gonna keep going. I have nowhere to go. So I don't think anyone else does either. Time range options. What is this? Oh, members connection. Yeah, this is not, this just rewrite this whole thing. Get pods by user ID. Well, I still want to edit it, just not that crap. I want this. Pod. Time range options. This is like a lot of work, man. for something that seems so simple. What's gonna be really slick is like the first version of this feature is okay, but when we can sync calendars and then use like machine learning to like auto recommend the best time for everyone. Wait, what am I even doing? You shouldn't talk while I'm trying to code. That is going to be freaking awesome. Get events by what? Get pods by event. Oh, okay. Get pods by event. Yeah, I was looking before I even started working on this feature, or before I even thought about it. I was looking at some APIs to just like see if I, oh, can I just buy this? Do I have to implement this? And it's so expensive. There's only really 2 companies that offer an API what I just described. One is Nihilus. I think they were like a email client that pivoted. And there was another one, something Cloudy or something. But it was like, it's like $1 per synced account, I think, for Nihilus, and then it's like $800 a month with the other API to do it, just like the auto recommendation of times based on calendars. So I'm like, damn, that's a valuable feature. Oh, but shoot, I have to do this, don't I? Time range options is an array of time ranges, and time ranges have a user ID and time range. Is that right? Is that right? What the heck, man? Did I close it already? Time range options. Oh shoot, see, this should be user ID. Time range and user ID. Yeah. Time range and user ID. This is not the most fun type of programming, but it's, you know, I think it's important. All pod props. The funnest, I think, is like VR development. That's like the funnest programming, I think. All pod props. Let's just reset it. Oh, yeah. So instead of this, it's time, range, user ID. All pod props. All event props. Yeah, VR development's the funnest. Because it's like you're literally immersed in your creation. Dude, that's one thing that's gonna like blow up in the next year is like, I think WebXR. Specifically WebXR, not like VR. VR in general, but like if you can just share a link and people can jump into your world, that's when people are gonna realize like, oh yeah, the web was the platform. We were sleeping on the web and we realized this is where we need to be. Because think about the alternatives. You're gonna have to download some app, log into some, probably Facebook. What am I doing? Where is this? Tagged connection, pods connection, here. It's just gonna be so slick to like click a link, and then it also just works on whatever device you have. Because like, there's the thing I think called the OpenXR project or something, where they're trying to make device agnostic VR APIs, but like that's not, as far as I know, it's not like super widely supported yet. And so like it's like, okay, if it works in Vive, good. If it works in Oculus, good. But public user props, there's not a lot of cross compatibility stuff yet. But the web just makes that literally trivial for developers to user props. Makes it trivial for developers to push to multiple targets. I guess Unity will do that too, though. Yeah, they'll probably abstract away the APIs. Event, members, public user props. I don't need to include it here, actually. Get pods by event ID. Time range options. Yeah, it's user ID now. Create pod. Okay, I think we made all the changes to the schemas. We're gonna go ahead and refactor the create pod. Okay. I don't know, should I try to leave this? I don't even know if I should leave this. Should we commit this, like, including of the edge data? Yes, we'll leave it, because we might need it in the future. Okay, let me just run through. Oh, I don't want to commit this, actually. I don't want to commit this. This is unrelated. Here. So now time range options is on the pod, and it has a time range and a user ID. It's an array of time ranges. Ah, we missed one. Get pods by user ID. Ah, shit, what are you doing here? Get pods by user ID. Where was that? Here. Get pods by user ID. Join pod. Let's not commit this just yet. Was this a typo? Yeah, it was just a typo. Let's not commit that. Can a pod have no members? Yeah, so time range options now is not going to live on the edge. That was too much effort to do it that way. I mean, it does live on the edge in the database, but see, we were leaking the implementation detail of this is like a learning lesson, a learning moment. I was leaking the implementation detail of the storage engine into the GraphQL API, which should be agnostic to the storage engine. The GraphQL API should serve the clients. It should serve the use cases of the business. And so, you know, when I query for a pod, I want to know what all the time ranges for the pod are. That's what so that should be on the pod type. I shouldn't put it on the edge. That's not necessary. In fact, maybe I won't even commit this. Maybe this thing we did to add the edge types to the like, maybe this is an anti-pattern. Maybe I don't want people to include data in the edge. Maybe the better way to do it is the way I have it here, which is the mapping, the explicit mapping on a custom field. Yeah, no, yeah, of course, because otherwise, like, we're gonna have to do that mapping on the front end then. And then you would have to do the mapping. You would have to basically loop through all the edges, construct the same data structure on every client, the mobile client, the web client. Now we're just doing it once in the back end and returning the data as needed by the front end. That's the whole point of GraphQL. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm just gonna revert this. Man, I went down a rabbit hole. See, you guys get to see what it's actually like. Programming is not super easy, at least not for me. You have to really, like, think through everything. This looks good. Oh yeah, I don't want that to commit this test. Okay, so let me commit this. Refactor pod type. So we kind of jumped ahead to this part where we're like refactoring the pod type. I wanted to do the tests first, but then I realized as I was testing, I needed to refactor the pod type. So refactor pod type to include start time, end time, and time range options. Okay. And then we're going to commit this. So then next thing we're going to do when we commit that is refactor create pod. Okay. To return the that field. And then we're going to do update and join pod. Okay. How long has the stream been going on? I feel like now I just wasted like an hour on that rabbit hole. So I probably will stop the stream. I feel like I feel like when we're doing this backend stuff, I really should like sleep on this and then pick up the finishing the tests in the morning. I could plow through, so we could do the front end tomorrow morning, but I don't think that's wise. Again, you don't want to like finish things. You don't want to finish things. You want to leave them half finished, so in the morning you know exactly where to pick up. Like I feel like if I just leave it right here, then tomorrow morning I'm gonna click this commit. I'm gonna jump right into create pod, and then we're gonna finish. Because I feel like now that I understand, we went through that crazy exercise. I understand what I'm doing, and it's awesome because this whole streaming thing, it's like the rubber duck method on steroids. Like I wonder if I wasn't speaking out loud as I was coding, I feel like I would have gone faster, but I probably would have stuck with the pagination. Like I probably would have fully implemented. I would have like just turned up the music, gotten to a good flow state, and just like implemented all the pagination logic. And I would have felt good about myself, right? But when I was talking it through and I was like, well, wait a minute, you know, do we even have to do this? Does it make sense? I stopped myself and I did something much simpler, which is just adding one new prop on the pod type. And that was actually the right thing to do. So this is interesting. This is like an interesting, this streaming thing is an interesting experience because I've never been a pair program before, but I've never just like constantly talked out loud as I was programming. And so I'm wondering, it feels like I'm going much slower than normal, right? And it's sort of embarrassing. I'm like, okay, we just spent 2 hours and I wrote like 10 lines of code, right? Whatever this is. So I feel very inefficient, but in reality, this was probably the best result from the session, which is I have the data model correct for the feature. And now I know exactly what I have to do next. And I avoided negative work. That's a big thing about programming, is I used to think when I was younger, like, oh, just crank code, just like write 1,000 lines of code, feel great. Now I'm like, the minimum amount of code that you push is the best, right? Because you're achieving the goal with as little cognitive overhead as possible. So even though it feels like this was not a productive session because we just have like a few lines of code changed, I think it was productive because you shouldn't judge the result by the amount of code that you changed. If anything, you should judge the result by the inverse of that, and then judge it by the actual like user experience that you're delivering. And I still think we can deliver this feature by the end of tomorrow, even with like the setback or the rabbit hole we went down with this data model exercise. Anyways, just like this is basically just me, word vomiting, just journaling out loud. But that's some thoughts. I'd wonder to hear what you guys think about that. So yeah, I think I'm gonna stop it here. It's been, holy shit, it's almost been 3 hours, and we're gonna pick this up tomorrow, and we're gonna finish this feature. I feel pretty good about this now. It was an interesting exercise. Oh, some people still stuck with me. Thank you. All right, so let's call it a night. Start tomorrow, and then finish these backend tests for this new API. It's much more simple than we were going to implement, and then start writing that React component. The React stuff is going to be much easier, hopefully, than all this backend stuff, because I'm not writing tests right now. But that's a whole other story. Anyways, thanks for sticking with me, guys. It's been a fun streaming session. I think I'm starting to get the hang of this, hopefully, and we'll see you in the morning. All right. Peace out.